All right, if we can bring Mr. Nelson to the witness stand, please. Sure. Can counsel approach? All right, Mr. Nelson, as I indicated, you're going to be sworn in front of the jury. Right now, what we're going to do is, if you don't mind standing, please, just stand up. And so when the jury comes in, you're going to be in a standing position. So you're in the same position as the other witnesses when they've been sworn in, that is standing. And then, but right now, all I want you to do is just see if you can sit without making any sort of a noise.
I can.
You're cognizant of that issue?
Totally.
Okay, but why don't you just do it once so everybody can? I didn't hear anything. Mr. Lahr, Ms. Simmons, did you hear anything? Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Nelson, if you could go ahead and stand up then. Thank you. Mr. Lahr, is defense ready to proceed?
Oh, yeah.
Ms. Burdick, state? Yes. Mr. Nelson, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring in the jury, please. Good morning, members of the jury. Good morning. Mr. Lahr, does the defense acknowledge the jury?
Here you are.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Burdick, state? Yes, sir. Mr. Lahr, please call the first witness for the defense.
At this time, Your Honor, we would call Scott Nelson.
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for Madam Court Report.
Scott Edward Nelson. SCOTTEDWARD
Thank you. Mr. Lahr?
How old are you, sir?
I'm 55.
And date of birth?
February 28, 1964.
Can you tell me who Julio Dominguez is?
Julio Dominguez is employed by the U.S. Department of Justice, United States Probation Office in Orlando, Florida.
Okay. And how is he related to this case?
Well, sir, he was my probation officer. I was on supervised release.
Okay, and what is the importance of his involvement in this case?
Well, sir, I'll be very frank with you. Jennifer Fulford would be alive today had it not been for Julio Dominguez.
And your reason for that statement, sir?
I think the world should know that. I mean, it's justice. The truth should be known, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
6 of them, sir.
Okay. And I don't believe I have any further questions.
Cross-examination?
Good morning, Mr. Nelson.
Good morning, Ms. Burdick.
Where are you from?
Originally,
Sure.
I was born in the state of Massachusetts and raised in the state of New Hampshire.
Right. And you moved to Orlando in March or May of 2017, correct?
That's correct.
And you came here and then you were under the supervision of this individual by the name of Julio Dominguez.
That's correct.
All right. So Mr. Dominguez was a federal probation officer.
That's correct.
And Mr. Dominguez, according to your statement, is the individual responsible for Jennifer Fulford's death.
Yes.
Did Mr. Dominguez kill Jennifer Fulford?
No,
Who killed Jennifer Fulford?
I did.
All right. So you left unsaid why Mr. Dominguez is responsible for her death. Would you like to explain?
Yes.
Please do.
I was employed in Winter Park for a painting company by a alleged Christian family who took it in their interest because I was such a dedicated, hard worker, allowed me to live at their employment as well. Prior to that, I had been homeless after being released from federal custody, thrown to the street, homeless with no money. I mean, that's how they do business. My federal supervised release officer, Julio Dominguez, after suffering on the streets of Orlando for many months with no identification, thanks to the Federal Bureau of Prisons throwing out my IDs.
Let me interrupt you.
Yes, ma'am.
You said many months. We're talking about 3 or 4 months, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I
What
was,
did Mr. Dominguez do to you?
he made it a point to create a situation with my employer slash landlord, which is one of the same, and he got me thrown on the street after months of suffering on the streets of Orlando.
So what he did was notify your employer that you were on federal probation.
No, actually, Ms. Burdick, what he did was I satisfied the courts and the probation officers' criteria. I told them that I was in prison, and I named the felony, and they were happy with that, the family. That satisfied the court. He took it upon himself to, as he called it, a third-party perspective, and he went to the owner, and he used vulgar language and said, "What are you, blank, crazy for letting this man live here? And you're going to let him work here? Get him out of here." And that got me thrown on the street.
All right, and this was in August or September?
It was the last Sunday, the last Saturday of August 2018, ma'am.
17.
17, I'm sorry, 17.
So your employer paid you, however, for the time that you had worked there prior to your being thrown out onto the street.
Yes, I received, I believe, one paycheck.
Right. Was this the paycheck that you used to open up an account in Winter Park?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
What bank was that?
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
All right. Is this the account that provided you with the check that you used to make purchases at Walmart in September of 2017?
That would be correct.
All right. The account balance was what, $500?
I don't recall, but it sounds realistic.
Sounds about the approximate dollar value of the paycheck that you would have gotten and then deposited into this bank account.
Yes, Ms. Burdick.
All right. So with that money, in the middle of September 14th or 15th, sound about right?
That sounds right.
All right. You went to Walmart, and we saw a video of an individual making purchases at Walmart. Was that you?
That was me.
Right? And you used a check from that checking account and signed it right there at the register, correct?
That's correct.
What did you buy?
A very long list of material, all different kinds of odds and ends.
All right, well, a lot of it was cigarettes, right? Cigarettes are very expensive.
Yeah, they are.
You bought a pair of blue tennis shoes.
Yep. Yes, ma'am, I did.
You bought zip ties.
Yes, I did.
You bought duct tape.
That'd be correct.
You bought a knife.
I sure did.
Right? Anything else you remember?
I believe food.
Some food?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you bought those, what were you planning to do? Why'd you need duct tape?
I bought that material because I had a plan in mind of how I was going to survive being thrown on the street again for what? The third, or was it the fourth time by the government, be it state or federal? And, you know, once you kick a dog enough times, they tend to bite back. And really, they just don't care anymore.
So tell us about your plan.
My plan was to get some money and abscond.
It's gone from your probation?
Oh, I think anybody would after, I mean, I suffered to work my way up to the top of the mountain, and this maniac comes and cuts it out from underneath me. I mean, what am I going to do? Go get another job? Let him do it again? No, we're going to fight back.
All right.
He lit a firecracker. He lit a bomb. He knew it too. And they laugh about it after. That's what corrections does. That's what the government does. That's all they've ever done to me. They've turned me into an animal.
So Mr. Dominguez had you on probation out of Orlando, not Winter Park, right?
Yes, Miss Burdick.
Right. And when you first moved to Orlando in May of that year, you actually lived in the city at a shelter?
Yeah, I had no choice. Yes, ma'am.
And you were there for about 60 days.
That's about accurate.
Okay. What took you to Winter Park?
What took me to Winter Park? My employment.
All right.
That's where I was located. My employment brought me there.
So you were living in Winter Park?
Yes, I was.
Where?
On Forsyth Street.
With who?
By myself, but at the owner's two-level garage on the bottom where he runs this paint business and painting company business. And the second floor is like a suite, refrigerators, stove, all that, you know.
Is this Mr. Estromera?
That would be correct.
Okay. So Mr. Estromera, out of the goodness of his heart, allowed you to stay on a property that he either owned or controlled.
That's half right.
All right. So you said this is Forsyth Road in Winter Park.
Yes.
All right. That's not really anywhere near Park Avenue, is it?
No, but his painting business brings me in all areas of Winter Park
All right.
and other towns.
So did you do any painting jobs on Park Avenue or near Park Avenue?
Not that I recall.
How about on Webster?
Not that I recall.
So there was no reason for you to be in that downtown Winter Park area, whether it's to live or to work, correct?
I'm free to walk about the streets like any other citizen.
Right, but aside from that, you had no reason to be there.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
All right. So rather than choosing this individual, Julio Dominguez, that you have a beef with, if you will, you decide that people who live in an area unconnected to you somehow need to be the target of your plan. Is that accurate?
No.
How then did you end up targeting Jennifer Fulford and Reed Berman?
The owner of the painting business, Mr. Estamara, had known Mr. Berman and had introduced me to a family, another family, and they had a beef with Mr. Berman. And their name, Reed Berman, and the location of that home came to light. I reported that to law enforcement.
Who is this? Who is this family?
I actually don't know the name of the family. I had been brought to their house by Mr. Estamara to paint.
All right, where is the house?
I believe it's in what they call Lake Forest or Forest Lake, something of that nature.
And what is that close to?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the area, ma'am.
All right.
I'm being honest with everything I say to you.
So what you're saying is that this other person, who you don't know the name of now and don't know exactly where they lived, who is unconnected to Julio Dominguez, somehow led you to target Reed Berman,
That's fairly correct.
okay? So because of you don't know Reed Berman, right?
Never met the man.
And you don't know or didn't know Jennifer Fulford.
No, I don't.
There was nothing that either one of them ever did to you that would have resulted in you taking some sort of revenge on them for, some moral cause,
I believe the term is collateral damage.
all right? You're saying that Jennifer Fulford was collateral damage as a result of your disliking Mr. Dominguez and how he treated you.
Well, I believe it's
Yes?
more, yes, but it's more accurate that he had a problem with me rather than I having a problem with him.
And did you direct your concerns to Mr. Dominguez or his supervisor?
Well, once I got thrown on the street with no job and stuff, there was really no sense in complaining to anyone. What are they going to do?
So that's a no?
That would be a no.
All right, so instead of taking a normal course when you disagree with somebody, you decided on something completely different to make your point, if you will, right?
I'll overrule the objection.
Ma'am,
Is that a yes or no? Instead of taking a normal route to deal with somebody that you disagree with on a professional level, you took another route to make your point.
may I,
no?
may I suggest yes and no answers in an area that we're venturing is really like putting a gag in my mouth because there's a lot more to just a yes and a no. But I'll go with the game here. Yes.
All right, so you think this is all game?
Well, I think what you're doing is trying to manipulate the real facts.
Now, I'm trying to make a point that you.
Now I'm
had a
willing to admit to
problem-
it.
Excuse me.
Hey, hold on. Madam Court Reporter cannot take down two people at once. So, Mr. Nelson, unless your attorney has an objection, you wait for my ruling, then you answer the question. Ms. Burdick, if you believe the witness is being non-responsive, you need to make that objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you're saying that I'm trying to now manipulate something. The point is, you had a problem with somebody completely unrelated to Jennifer Fulford and Reed Berman, and you made a plan in September of 2017 to take your anger toward that person out on somebody like Jennifer Fulford.
I think that's accurate.
All right. Why not Mr. Dominguez? Why not?
Funny you should mention that. I happen to possess a 9mm handgun with 2 boxes of ammunition. They were in the house.
Relevance.
Okay.
Overrule the objection.
You can finish.
I happen to have that gun. I was going to shoot him, and I believe in God because God was looking out for Mr. Dominguez that Saturday afternoon. Because me and him were in a part of Winter Park on Forsyth Street where on Saturday afternoon there was no one on Forsyth Street.
Is this Saturday afternoon before you killed Jennifer Fulford?
No, this was like a month prior.
A month before, okay. So you wanted to kill Mr. Dominguez, and you had the ability and the tools to do so, and you made a choice at that time not to.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's very lucky.
all right. So, back to the point, instead of carrying out that plan, you formed a new one.
Yes.
And for some reason, you turned your attentions, if you will, to the people of Winter Park.
Yeah.
Because you just didn't like the way they were treating you either.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
All right, so Mr. Dominguez, you don't like the way he's treating you. You think about killing him. You acquire the tools to do it and change your mind. So now, generally speaking,
Your Honor, can we approach?
Yes?